The rain soaked through Trevor Walsh's worn jacket as he stepped off the Greyhound bus, his 8-year-old son gripping his calloused hand. 15 years ago, he had left this Ohio town with nothing but shame and a dying wife who never got to say goodbye to his family. Now, as CEO of a multi-million-dollar tech company, he could buy this entire Main Street. But the locals watching him shuffle toward the cheapest motel didn't know that. They saw a broken single father in second-hand clothes, another casualty of life's cruelty. Trevor had come back with one question burning in his chest. Would the family who refused to help when Rachel was dying treat a poor man differently than a rich one? The diner's neon sign flickered as he walked past his brother's truck, the same brother who once said, "I won't let people think we're weak." What Trevor would witness in the coming weeks would shatter everything he thought he knew about family, sacrifice, and the true cost of pride. The motel room smelled of mildew, but Brendan didn't complain. He unpacked their single duffel bag with careful movements, arranging clothes on the chipped dresser. Trevor had chosen this place deliberately, the cheapest option in town, where no one would question a man down on his luck. 15 years ago, he'd promised Rachel he would build them a better life. She'd believed in him when no one else did. But she'd died in that cramped Sacramento apartment, whispering Brendan's name, asking for family who never came. Trevor had called home that terrible week, begging Kenneth for help. Rachel needed surgery they couldn't afford. Kenneth's response still echoed, "I can't help you. What would people think? That the Walsh family is begging for handouts? I've got a reputation to maintain. Figure it out yourself." 3 days later, Rachel was gone. "Dad, are we really going to stay here for a while?" Brendan's dark eyes searched his face. Trevor knelt beside the bed. "We are, buddy. I need to see some people I haven't seen in a long time." Brendan nodded slowly. "The people Mom wanted to meet?" Trevor's breath caught. "Yeah, those people." The next morning, Trevor dressed in thrift store clothes, transforming himself into the man he'd once been, someone just trying to survive. At Rosie's diner, a waitress named Dolores brought coffee and kindness. "You folks just passing through?" Trevor kept his voice humble. "Actually, I grew up here, just moved back, looking for work, hoping to reconnect with family." Her expression warmed. "Welcome home, honey. Family's important." The door opened, and Trevor's heart skipped. Jenna, his little sister, now 32, wearing scrubs and exhaustion like a second skin. She ordered coffee to go, anxious about her daughter's medical appointment. Trevor watched her count change from a worn purse, hands shaking. As she left, their eyes met for a second, but she didn't recognize him. How could she? The brother she remembered was young and desperate, not this weathered stranger. After securing a dishwashing job, Trevor walked with Brendan to Kenneth's farm. The house looked smaller, paint peeling, the fields mostly fallow. Kenneth emerged from the barn, aged hard at 45. Their eyes met across the yard. "Trevor?" His voice was rough. Kenneth looked him over, taking in the cheap clothes. "Thought you'd made something of yourself out there." Trevor gestured to Brendan. "This is my son. His mother passed. I needed a change." Kenneth's eyes softened briefly. "I heard about Rachel. I'm sorry." The words came too late. "Things aren't great here. Farm's struggling." The dismissal was clear. The next 2 weeks fell into rhythm. Trevor woke before dawn, walked Brendan to school, then worked at the diner. His hands learned to scrub pots again. His back ached. But there was something meditative about the honest work. He watched the town flow through the diner and saw Jenna hurry past 3 times a week, always moving fast, always worried. He learned she worked 3 jobs: teacher's aide, high school teaching, and weekend hours at Morrison's flower shop. She was drowning, and he wanted to help but held back, observing, waiting. During lunch rushes, Trevor noticed things he'd never seen from his CEO office in California. He saw retired farmers arguing politics over bitter coffee, their weathered hands wrapped around mugs, voices raised, but eyes twinkling with the familiarity of decades-old friendships. Young mothers counted change for their orders, making quiet calculations about what they could afford, and Dolores would sometimes accidentally bring extra fries or forget to charge for a second milk. The kindness was subtle, unspoken, the way small towns took care of their own without making a show of it. Trevor saw the homeless man who came by twice a week and watched as the cook, without being asked, prepared a full meal and packaged it to go. No one charged him. No one made him feel less than human. One rainy afternoon, Trevor was taking out trash when he saw Jenna across the street at Morrison's flower shop. Through the large window, he watched her work. Her hands moved with practiced grace, transforming simple stems and blooms into arrangements that made people smile. A teenage boy came in, nervous, clearly buying flowers for a first date. Trevor couldn't hear the conversation, but he saw Jenna's patient kindness as she helped him choose, saw her slip an extra rose into the bouquet, saw her charge him less than the arrangement was worth. The boy left beaming, and Jenna returned to her work, adding money from her own purse to the register to cover the discount. Trevor's chest tightened. This was his sister, barely surviving herself, giving away what little she had because she couldn't stand to see others struggle. How many times had she done this? How many small acts of generosity had she performed while working herself to exhaustion? He wanted to march across that street, to reveal everything, to end her suffering immediately. But something kept him rooted in place. He needed to see more, needed to understand the full picture of who his family had become in his absence. That evening, as Trevor walked Brendan home from school, they passed the elementary school playground. Cassidy was there with other children, but Trevor noticed she couldn't keep up with their games. She'd run a few steps, then stop to catch her breath, hand pressed to her small chest. The other kids didn't seem to notice or care. They just adjusted their play to include her at her pace. But Trevor noticed, and when Jenna arrived to pick her up, breathless from running from her teaching job, Trevor saw the way she assessed her daughter with worried eyes, saw the fear she tried to hide behind a bright smile. "How was your day, baby?" Jenna asked, kneeling to Cassidy's level. "Did you have fun?" Cassidy nodded enthusiastically, not mentioning the breathlessness, protecting her mother from worry, just as Jenna was protecting her from fear. They walked to the bus stop together, Jenna carrying Cassidy's backpack along with her own heavy bag, and Trevor followed at a distance, watching this daily ritual of love and sacrifice. At the bus stop, Jenna counted exact change, then gave Cassidy a granola bar from her purse, the kind of small snack that was probably Jenna's own lunch. When the bus arrived, Cassidy climbed on slowly, and Jenna watched with a smile that didn't reach her eyes until the bus pulled away. Only then did her shoulders sag. Only then did she allow herself a moment of exhaustion and fear. One afternoon, Brendan brought home a new friend. The small blonde girl smiled up at Trevor. "Hi, Mr. Walsh, I'm Cassidy. Brendan says you make the best grilled cheese." Trevor's heart clenched. His niece. She had a medical bracelet on her wrist and a slight blue tinge to her lips. Heart condition. The pieces clicked. Jenna's 3 jobs, the worry, the medical appointments. Cassidy talked easily about her mom working hard so she could see doctors, about selling their car for something important, about taking the bus everywhere now. This child spoke about poverty and sacrifice with matter-of-fact acceptance. When Jenna arrived breathless to pick her up, she introduced herself formally. "I'm Jenna Walsh. You must be new in town." Trevor shook his own sister's hand like a stranger. Trevor Walsh, actually. I grew up here." Her eyes widened, color draining. "Trevor?" She reached for the doorframe. "I can't believe it. Kenneth said you were too important now to care about us. Trevor's jaw tightened. I'm here now. She pulled him into a fierce hug, sobbing. You came back. After everything, you came back. They talked for 2 hours. Jenna told him everything. Her husband leaving when Cassidy was diagnosed, working multiple jobs to afford specialist appointments, needing surgery that would cost more than she could make in 5 years. Kenneth had offered help, but he had his own troubles with the failing farm. She wouldn't burden him further. Trevor listened, fists clenched, throat tight with rage and sorrow. He could write a check right now that would solve everything. But he said nothing, letting her believe he was Trevor the dishwasher. The following Sunday, Trevor took Brendan to the cemetery. His parents' graves were clean, fresh flowers in the vases. Someone maintained these with care. Kenneth's truck pulled in. His brother climbed out with sunflowers, their mother's favorite. They stared at each other across the grass. Finally, Kenneth knelt, placing flowers with gentle precision. I come every Sunday. Have since they passed. I told them about you sometimes. Told them you were out there making something of yourself, even if you couldn't be here. His voice was soft, vulnerable in a way Trevor had never heard before. I tell Mom about Jenna, about how strong she is, how she's exactly the daughter Mom hoped she'd be. I tell Dad I'm sorry I couldn't keep the farm going the way he wanted. Trevor watched his brother talk to gravestones with the tenderness of someone who'd spent years alone with his regrets. Kenneth pulled a few weeds from around the base of the stones, his movements careful, almost reverent. I clean the stones every week, he continued, not looking at Trevor. Replace the flowers before they wilt. Dad always said these things mattered, taking care of what's yours, honoring what came before. He finally stood, brushing dirt from his knees. I've failed at most things in my life, but I won't fail at this. They deserve better than a son who let everything fall apart. Brendan wandered off, giving them space. Kenneth stood, his face closing off. Farm's going under. Bank's foreclosing in 2 weeks. Should have sold years ago. But I thought I could prove I was as smart as my little brother, who ran off to California. The bitterness was back, but underneath it, desperation. You know the worst part? I used to think I was better than you because I stayed. Turns out you were the smart one. Trevor wanted to reveal everything, to save the farm with a phone call, but something held him back. Have you asked Jenna for help? Kenneth's face darkened. I can't. She's working herself to death for Cassidy's medical bills. She already offered me everything she saved. Can you believe that? $5,000, years of scraping by, and she offered it all. Said family comes first. I told her no. Trevor processed this. Jenna had offered Kenneth her savings, money desperately needed for surgery, because family came first. But the question remained, was Kenneth's humility real or just desperation? What will you do? Kenneth shrugged heavily. Move, I guess. Find work somewhere. I'm 50 with nothing but farm skills. Should be quite an adventure. He looked at Trevor. What about you? Working at the diner can't pay much. Trevor answered carefully. Day by day. Brendan and I don't need much. We've got each other. Kenneth studied him. You always were tougher than you looked. He paused. Jenna needs family around. She won't admit it, but she's barely holding on. I've failed her, just like I failed you when Rachel was sick. I think about that a lot. The admission hung between them. Trevor turned to his brother fully. Why did you say no back then? Kenneth flinched. Pride, stupidity, fear. Dad had just died. People were whispering I couldn't handle the farm. I couldn't admit we were struggling. I thought if I showed weakness, I'd lose everything. I didn't know she'd die. I thought you were exaggerating. By the time I realized how serious it was too late. He wiped his face. I've lived with that guilt every day. I killed your wife because I was too proud to help. Trevor felt 15 years of anger crack. This wasn't the villain he'd constructed. This was a broken man who'd made a terrible mistake and never forgave himself. You didn't kill her. The disease killed her. You made a choice I can't forgive easily. But you didn't cause her death. Kenneth shook his head. I chose pride over family, and people died because of it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I see what I did. And I hate him. The week unfolded with strange tension. Trevor continued his shifts, but his mind processed everything he'd learned. He watched Jenna show small kindnesses despite exhaustion, sharing lunch with homeless people, staying late to help students, buying shoes for a classmate using money she couldn't spare. Kenneth helped elderly neighbors at the hardware store, employed farmhands he couldn't afford. They were both revealing unexpected depth. Thursday evening, Trevor passed Morrison's flower shop and saw Jenna through the window, arranging bouquets while Cassidy did homework in the corner, occasionally coughing. He watched Jenna help a middle-aged couple, creating something beautiful, then undercharging them when she saw their worn clothes. After they left, she added her own money to the register. That night, Trevor saw something that changed everything. Through Kenneth's kitchen window, he watched Jenna hand her brother an envelope of money and a car sale contract. She'd sold her only car, needed for Cassidy's hospital visits, to give Kenneth an interest-free loan. Kenneth cried, refusing. Khan se chokon, tao hong den han. Jenna insisted. Anlas gia jindui nat Khan. Cassidy ko the jitsi bus, nung trang trai mat roi hong, bao gio lei lai. The next day, Trevor and Brendan saw Jenna walking in the rain, leading sick Cassidy to the bus stop. She'd sold the car that morning. Brendan cried. Ba oi, sao ba hong giup ko Jenna, ba noi ba ko tien ma. Trevor stood in the rain, shaking. This was the shock. His family, all struggling, willing to sacrifice everything for each other. Kenneth had refused help 15 years ago, not from evil, but from pride. And now Jenna was breaking that barrier with action. Trevor had to reveal the truth. That evening at the flower shop, Trevor found Kenneth and Jenna arguing. Kenneth refused her money. Jenna demanded he take it. They fought over who deserved to suffer less, both near tears, both trying to save each other while drowning together. Stop! Trevor's voice cut through. You're both wrong. You should both stop being so stubborn and let someone else help. Kenneth's eyes narrowed. You don't understand what it's like to fail. Trevor took a deep breath. You're right. I don't understand failure. I understand success. It's time I told you the truth. He pulled out his wallet and handed Jenna his business card. Her eyes widened. Walsh Technologies. Chief Executive Officer. She looked up, shocked. You said you were laid off. You're living in a motel. What is this? Kenneth grabbed the card, face going white. You're rich, and you've been pretending to be poor, watching us struggle? What kind of sick game is this? Trevor forced himself to meet their eyes. 15 years ago, I called begging for help. My wife was dying, and I was told no because it would make the family look weak. I came back to find out if you treat a poor man differently than a rich one. I needed to know if Kenneth had changed, if Jenna would show kindness to someone with nothing to give. His voice cracked. I was wrong to test you, but what I've learned has shocked me. Kenneth's fists clenched. So this was all a test? Our pain, our struggles, just entertainment. Jenna's eyes filled with tears. I told you everything about Cassidy, and you were just observing me? How could you? Because I needed to know. Trevor's words exploded. I needed to know if the people who let Rachel die had any humanity left. Kenneth flinched. I know what I did. I've lived with it every day. What more do you want? Jenna wiped tears angrily. I was 15 when you left. I had no power. I've thought about you every day. And now, I find out you've been here with money that could solve everything, just watching us suffer. Wait, Trevor stopped them. You're right. I was wrong. But let me tell you what I've learned. He looked at Kenneth. I came here hating you, ready to watch you suffer. I wanted to see you treat me like garbage when you thought I was poor. But that's not what happened. I saw you maintain Mom and Dad's graves every Sunday. I saw you help neighbors. I heard you refuse Jenna's money even though you're losing everything. You're not the man I thought you were. You've changed. He turned to Jenna. And you. You're working yourself to death, barely surviving, and you still help everyone around you. You offered Kenneth your life savings. You share your lunch with homeless people. You embody everything Mom and Dad taught us about kindness. His voice cracked. Watching you has healed something in me I didn't know was broken. You reminded me what it means to be good when life is hard. The shop fell silent. Finally, Jenna spoke. Why didn't you just help us from the start? Trevor ran his hands through his hair. Because I believed if you knew I was rich, any kindness would be calculated. I needed to know the truth of who you were when there was nothing to gain. But you're kind because that's who you are. Kenneth is humble because he's learned, and I'm the one living in bitterness and judgment. Kenneth walked to the window. I don't even blame you. If someone had done to me what I did to you, I'd want revenge too. He turned back, face etched with pain. When you called about Rachel, I was angry you'd left. Angry you seemed to be failing while I was supposedly succeeding. Helping you would have meant admitting you'd been brave to leave, and I'd been cowardly to stay. So I let pride kill your wife. There's no forgiveness for that. Jenna looked between her brothers. We've all made mistakes. We've all let pride or fear make our decisions. Mom used to say family isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up, even when it's hard. She took each brother's hand. Trevor, you showed up after 15 years. Kenneth, you've been here all along. Neither of you is perfect. But you're both here now, and that counts for something. Trevor looked at his siblings. I have money. More than I could spend in lifetimes. I can save the farm, pay for Cassidy's surgery, set you both up so you never worry again. But I won't do it unless you agree to accept it. Not as charity, but as family taking care of family. The way you've been trying to take care of each other. Cassidy's small voice broke the silence. Mommy, does this mean I can get my surgery? Jenna pulled her daughter close. Baby, it's not that simple. But Cassidy looked at Trevor. You're really rich? Then why did you pretend to be poor? Trevor knelt to her level. I made a mistake. Tests are for school, not families. I'm sorry. Kenneth walked to Trevor. They stood facing each other, a lifetime between them. Then Kenneth extended his hand. I can't forgive myself for what I did to Rachel. But if you're willing to help now, I'll accept it. Not for me. For Jenna and Cassidy. Trevor pulled him into an embrace. Kenneth stiffened, then melted, shoulders shaking. When they pulled apart, both had tears. Jenna joined them, wrapping her arms around both brothers. I've missed having a family. The three Walsh siblings stood together, broken but whole in the ways that mattered. Over terrible diner coffee that night, Trevor explained his life in California, the loneliness of success, using achievement as armor against pain. Kenneth talked about struggling alone, trying to prove something to ghosts. Jenna talked about Cassidy's father leaving, building a life around her daughter. Trevor laid out his plan. Pay the farm's debts, modernize it, cover all Cassidy's medical expenses, fund Jenna's teacher training program. I don't want to just throw money at problems. I want to invest in what you care about, help you build the lives you want. But they talked about more than money. Kenneth explained the full story of that phone call. Their mother was dying upstairs, the farm hemorrhaging money, and he was 25 trying to hold together a collapsing world. When you called asking for money, I snapped. It wasn't just pride. It was fear that if I admitted I couldn't help, everything would fall apart. I thought if I kept up the illusion of strength, I could will it into reality. I didn't understand that real strength is asking for help. Trevor listened, feeling anger loosen its grip. He couldn't excuse what Kenneth had done, but he could understand the scared young man who'd made a terrible choice. I wish you'd told me about Mom, about how bad things were. I would have come home. We could have figured it out together. Kenneth nodded. I was ashamed I was failing. Ashamed the little brother who'd run away might be more successful. By the time I realized how wrong I'd been, you were gone. The conversation wound through the night. 3 siblings excavating 15 years of misunderstanding. They laughed, too, remembering childhood moments. They remembered their mother's terrible cooking, their father's quiet pride. These memories surfaced like treasures, reminding them who they'd been before life got complicated. Cassidy's surgery was scheduled for early November. Trevor insisted on being there with Kenneth and Brendan. They sat in the waiting room, 3 generations of Walsh family, no longer fractured. The surgery took 6 hours. When the surgeon emerged with good news, they wept with relief. The surgery had gone perfectly. Cassidy would need time to heal, but her prognosis was excellent. Trevor watched through the window as Jenna sat by her daughter's bed and thought about Rachel, about how she would have loved seeing family come together. During recovery, they fell into new rhythms. Trevor rented a house in town, and Brendan enrolled properly in school. Kenneth came for dinner most nights, teaching Brendan about farming. Jenna reduced her work hours, finally able to breathe. They were learning to be a family again, navigating the awkwardness and joy. It wasn't always smooth. Old hurts surfaced, requiring new conversations, new understanding. One evening, Kenneth and Trevor sat on the porch watching the sunset. I've been thinking about what you said, about family taking care of family, Kenneth said. I need you to know I'm not accepting your help just because of money. I'm accepting it because you came back. You had every reason to stay away. But you came back, and that means something. Trevor nodded. I came back for the wrong reasons initially. I wanted to prove my own bitterness. But somewhere along the way, I remembered why family matters. Kenneth was quiet. Rachel would be proud of you. Proud of how you raised Brendan. Proud of your success. Proud that you found your way back to forgiveness. The mention of Rachel brought tears to Trevor's eyes. I think about her every day. Wonder what she'd think of all this. Kenneth put a hand on his shoulder. She'd forgive you. I only met her a few times, but I remember her kindness. I'm sorry I didn't honor that when it mattered. As Thanksgiving approached, Jenna insisted on hosting, despite Cassidy still recovering. The day was chaotic and perfect, the house filled with laughter. They sat around the table, joined hands for grace. Kenneth led it, his voice breaking as he thanked God for second chances and family reunions. During the meal, Cassidy asked, Uncle Trevor, are you going back to California? The table went silent. Brendan spoke up. We could stay, Dad. I like my school here. I like being near Cassidy and Uncle Kenneth and Aunt Jenna. I can make new friends. But I only have one family. Trevor looked around at his family, seeing hope in their eyes. He thought about his California penthouse that had never felt like home, the success that had never filled the void. Then he thought about these past weeks, the unexpected healing. I think we could split our time, keep California for work, but make this home. Would that work? Jenna's face lit up. Kenneth nodded. Cassidy cheered. The Walsh family, scattered for 15 years, was choosing to be whole again. After dinner, Trevor and Kenneth walked to the cemetery. They stood before their parents' graves, fresh flowers adorning the headstones. I wish they could see this, Kenneth said. See us together again. Trevor touched his mother's name. "We made it back, Mom. It took too long, and we did it the hard way, but we made it." Kenneth knelt beside him. "I'm going to do better, Dad, with the farm, with family, with everything." The weeks that followed settled into new normal. Trevor began splitting his time, 2 weeks in California, 2 weeks in Ohio. He promoted his COO to handle daily operations. The company thrived, teaching him about delegation. In Millbrook, he became part of the community, joining the town council, volunteering at school. The farm transformed under Kenneth's management and Trevor's backing, becoming a model others visited. Kenneth was happier than Trevor had ever seen him, the bitterness replaced by purpose. Jenna launched her teacher training program in January with Trevor's foundation funding. She was brilliant at it, her empathy making her an exceptional mentor. Cassidy recovered beautifully, her energy returning. She and Brendan became true best friends, the kind of cousins who were more like siblings. Trevor watched them play and thought about how his son had gained roots, belonging, the knowledge that he mattered to people beyond his father. On the anniversary of Trevor's return, exactly 1 year later, the family gathered at the cemetery again. It had become their tradition. Trevor stood before the graves with Brendan's hand in his and his siblings beside him. "We did it. We found our way back to each other. We became the family you wanted us to be." Kenneth added, "We're showing up. That's what you taught us. Just show up, keep trying, love each other through the hard parts." The celebration dinner that night included not just family, but friends they'd made. The farmhouse felt full of life and warmth. As Trevor looked around the crowded table, he was struck by how much richer this life was than his California existence. Not richer in money, but in connection, in meaning, in being truly known and loved. Later, Kenneth brought out their father's whiskey. They raised glasses. "To second chances," Kenneth said. Jenna added, "To forgiveness and family." Trevor concluded, "To Rachel, who brought me here even after she was gone. To Mom and Dad, who gave us the foundation. And to us, for having the courage to try again." They drank to all of it, the pain and healing, the failures and redemptions, the endings and new beginnings. Trevor made the decision to relocate his company headquarters to Ohio. Brendan started high school. Kenneth married Patricia in a simple ceremony. Jenna's program received state funding. Life continued, marked by ordinary and extraordinary moments. But it was the ordinary moments Trevor treasured most. Sunday dinners, soccer games, where the whole family cheered, helping Kenneth with harvest, teaching Cassidy coding, being part of community rather than apart from it. 2 years after his return, Trevor sat alone by Rachel's headstone. "I did it. I found my way back to family. I let go of anger. I forgave Kenneth, and I forgave myself." He traced her name. "Brendan is thriving. He has cousins and aunts and uncles. He has roots and belonging. That's what you wanted." The wind rustled through trees, and Trevor could almost hear Rachel's voice encouraging him. "I still miss you every day, but I'm learning to honor your memory by living fully rather than hiding in grief." As he walked away, he felt lighter. That evening at Sunday dinner, Brendan announced, "Dad and I have decided something. We're officially moving here full-time. We're selling the California house. Millbrook is home now." The reaction was immediate and joyful. Trevor watched his son bask in their love and felt proud of the young man he was becoming, one who understood that home wasn't a place, but people. As the family settled in for the evening, Trevor had a moment of profound clarity. This was what he'd been testing for, though he hadn't known it. Not whether his family would be kind to a poor man, but whether he himself could be brave enough to accept kindness, to forgive, to belong again. The real test had always been about him. His family had passed every test simply by being themselves, flawed, struggling, trying, loving. And he had passed by finally recognizing that and choosing to stay. In this moment, on this ordinary Sunday evening, Trevor simply sat with his family playing Monopoly and eating leftover pie. He was happy because he belonged, because he was known, because he was home. And as he caught Kenneth's eye and saw his brother smile, as he heard Jenna's laugh and watched Brendan's joy, Trevor understood the final lesson. The greatest wealth isn't in what you have or what you've achieved. It's in who loves you and who you love in return. It's in showing up, even when it's hard. It's in choosing forgiveness over bitterness, connection over isolation. And it's in recognizing that sometimes the most shocking discovery isn't about other people at all. It's about yourself, about your own capacity for growth and change and love. That was what his family had taught him, and what he would spend the rest of his life living out, that we're all capable of becoming better than our worst moments if we're brave enough to try.